This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so I really appreciate you all for attending today. A very good morning, afternoon, or evening to one and all present here virtually with me today. Let me introduce myself. My name is Jessica, Conference Secretariat at Coalesce Research Group LLC, and I will be available for any of your queries or questions throughout the webinar to help you out technically and organize this successfully. For the next 5 minutes, please allow me to give a brief description about our organization, Coalesce Research Group, and also for further instructions. Coalesce Research Group is very delighted to welcome you all the speakers, supporting associations, students, and delegates present virtually with us today, with the aim mark the scientific excellence by facilitation conversations, sharing knowledge. College Research Group follows through the objective of setting standards in delivering the excellence in the research among the researchers, academicians, and industries, promulgating the research through conducting events and online webinars from various fields of science, especially from the stream of medicine, science, engineering, and technology. Within a short duration, we have succeeded in creating a platform for developing a strong professional network with the people across the world from their respective fields that they haven't connected in a while. As a global scientific event organizer, we plan and carry out international conferences, meetings, seminars, symposium, and workshops, providing the best delegate experience, excellent networking opportunities, conversations leading to innovations, learning new opportunities, lasting working relationships, and professionalization with the professionals around the global network. Just recently, we have also started our own platform for open access peer reviewed scholarly literature, where all the content is freely available without any charge to the reader. We aim to share the new recent advances through scientific publications, which will help in the minimizing the borders, contributing the use of research works of eminent authors, scientists, researchers, research scholars, students, etc., across a broad spectrum of medical, clinical, pharma, engineering, scientific disciplines, and its subspecialties to promote the ideas which will guide the development and facilitate the use of scientific information and ensure its quality, and also will be connecting link between researchers, scientific community. We are committed in ensuring that our journals are disseminated worldwide so the researchers are able to access the content wherever and whenever they need it. As being a very few new journals, we have coined up some interesting ones and have also formed the editorial board, and will be very glad if any of our today's attendees, the speakers, students, delegates, could extend their support by checking the journal website and will be interested in publishing an inaugural issue according to their area of expertise. We'll also send the email with all the details about the journal. So do take your time to check the website. Finally, I would like to thank all the attendees and participants of today's webinar. Hope you enjoyed this and gained some knowledge from the session. We also hope your participation will contribute to new research findings and that will lead to new collaborations and research initiatives. Before we start with the sessions, I guess some of you will be new to the GoToMeetings app. Let me just explain you about the important tools required for the presentation. On the GoToMeetings app or web page, you can find 4 icons at the bottom of your center of the screen: mic, camera, screen, and leave. Mic, click on that to mute or unmute yourself. I request you all to stay muted while our speakers are presenting their research work so that it doesn't cause any disturbance to them. Camera, you can use this button to share or unshare the webcam. If you have the option to share the webcam, you can do it, or it is completely your choice. Screen, you can use this button to share your screen. This is the main part during your presentation. After I call your name, from my side, I will be making you the presenter, and only I give the permission, you will be able to share your screen. So once I make you the presenter, you can click on the screen button and you will be able to find a pop-up window to share your screen. Leave, this is your fourth icon where you can use this to leave the session. On the top center, you can use the options to change your display settings. At the top right corner, you will have a 3 icons: people, chat, and settings. And in the chat option, you can chat with me or any other participants. For the settings, you can use this button to check for the settings of your speaker and microphone. So as mentioned, kindly remain muted during the presentation so that our presenters don't get disturbed. And for any questions, you can ask the questions or you can send your question in the message box too. So finally, I would like to request you all to give a brief introduction about yourself before starting with the session so that we can know about you virtually. Now let's move into our session. Our first session is oral presentation presented by Dr. Becky Han from Northeast Agricultural University, China. And the title of the talk is Activation of GPX4TL for Signaling Pathway Participates in the Elevation of Selenium East on Delta Methrin Provoked Cerebrum Injury in Coalesce. So hello, Dr. Becky.
Hello.
Yes, so I'm going to make you the presenter.
Okay.
Yes, so you are the presenter. Please share your screen with us.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm so honored to participate in this meaningful conference and communicate my academic achievements with you. I'm Vicky Han, a master degree candidate of the College of Veterinary Medicine in Northeast Agricultural University of China. My supervisor is Professor Zhigang Zhang. The title of my academic report is Activation of the GPX4 TLR4 signaling pathway participates in the elevation of selenium is on demonstrative provoked cerebral injury in Coalesce. I will report from the following 6 aspects. Part 1. Research background. Irresolubles are cybernetic insecticides which are used for controlling insect pests in agriculture, public health, and animal health, and they are widely planned for agriculture and aquaculture, and its residue in the environment seriously threatens the biosafety. Delta-methyl is one of the most important pyrethroids, first marketed in 1977, and it is a highly lipophilic compound, and it can cross the blood-brain barrier. Therefore, pyrethroids are synthetic insecticides, which are used for controlling insect pests in agriculture and public health and animal health, and they are widely planned for agriculture and aquaculture, and its residue in environment seriously threatens by biosafety. Documentary is one of the most important press rules first marketed in 1977, and it is a highly lipophilic compound, and it can cross the blood-brain barrier. Therefore, documentary may cause a certain degree of toxic effect on the nervous system. However, at present, there is no safe and effective treatment for documentary-induced brain damage, so it is important to find a safe and effective drug to treat it. Selenium is a common and effective organic form of selenium supplement, which is famous for its high selenomethylene content. Functions of selenium are diverse as antioxidant, anti-inflammation, increase immunity, reduce cancer incidence, and anti-apoptosis. However, it is unclear whether it has protective effect on documentary-induced brain damage. Part 2. Research purpose and significance. The purpose of this study is to explore the effect and the mechanism of selenium on documentary-induced brain damage by establishing documentary observing model of QUIL. And this study proved a beneficial proof for the use of selenium in treatment of documentary-induced cerebral injury. Part 3. Research contents. The test is divided into two sections. First section, establish a model of documentary-induced cerebral injury and determine the appropriate dosage. Second part is research of selenium is intervened documentary-induced cerebral injury in QUIL. Part 4, rules. First part, establish a brain injury model through documentary-induced in QUIL. 40 healthy male QUILs, assigned to 4 groups, treated with 0, 15, 30, 45 mg per kilogram body weight, documentary intragastrically. All treatment lasts for 12 weeks. We investigate the impact of chronic exposure to documentary on oxidative stress and apoptosis in QUIL cerebrum. Second part, research of selenium is invented documentary-induced brain injury in QUIL. 40 QUILs were distributed into 4 groups. Control documentary plus selenium groups. All treatments last for 12 weeks. We measured biomarkers of oxidative stress and performed histopathological analysis, tunnel assay, qRT-PCR, and Western blot assay. Part 5, results. The clinical symptoms showed that documentary low, medium, and high DAS group showed loss of appetite, depression, and sleepiness. High DAS documentary showed significant involuntary head turning or twisting. Results of the hematological test showed that WBC count in the high DAS and middle DAS documentary groups were altered significantly compared with the control group, suggesting documentary exposure induced inflammation response in QUILs. Histopathological analysis showed normal cerebrum structures, with tendinitis, a rare of cell in the control groups. Documentary treatment showed severe changes along with part of cell spacing increases, and the career prognosis of some cells. Ultrastructural analysis shows that automatically induced ultrastructure changes. The structure of cerebral morphology was disordered, obviously inducing swollen mitochondria fragment and severe phytomitochondrial crystal in Heidel's delta group. Biomarkers of oxidative stress in cerebrum were determined, compared with the control group, increased the MDA concentration, decreased GSH content, and SOD activity were shown in demonstrative treatment groups, suggesting demonstrative induced oxidative stress in cerebrum. The result of hematological tests show that delta decreased the WBC count. However, the suppressive effect of delta was reversed by selenium administration. Histopathological analysis shows that selenium is evaluated delta induced change of pathological. Delta treated cerebrum showed disorder cell arrangement with increased space of cell. However, delta induced pathological changes were continued under the condition of selenium is the treatment. Ultrastructural analysis shows that selenium is alleviated delta induced ultrastructure changes. Measurement of oxidative stress index shows that selenium is attenuated delta induced oxidative stress in brain tissue. Internal tests show that selenium is markedly decreases nucleate or apoptosis. GPX4 is a member of GPX family and plays a key role in protecting against oxidative stress. In addition, the levels of NRF2-related proteins and mRNA expression were measured. The levels of oxidative stress-related mRNA and proteins show that selenium is activated the GPX4 and NRF2-related pathway in selenium is treatment course. The mRNA levels of inflammation-related genes were cascaded by qRT-PCR and Western blot. And the results show that selenium is relieves inflammation in cerebrum induced by delta. The levels of apoptosis-related mRNA and protein in brains showed selenium is inhibited delta-induced apoptosis in cerebrum. PPI network genes associated with the study were revealed to demonstrate our assumption. The expression levels of all genes in each group are shown in picture, indicating that oxidative stress, inflammation, and apoptosis Part 6. Conclusion. In conclusion, all results suggested that selenium is a protect against delta-menstrual-induced cerebral injury by activating the GPX4 TLR4 signaling pathway. The study not only provides a novel insight for elucidating delta-menstrual-induced cerebral injury, but also a practical foundation for the treatment of delta-menstrual-induced damage. That's all for my report, and thank you for your listening.
Thank you, Dr. Vicky Han. Any questions? I hope there are no queries. Once again, thank you, Dr. Vicky Han and Professor Jigang Jiang. So next oral presentation by Dr. Sui Yang from Northeast Agricultural University, China. And the presentation title is Exploring the Liver Fibrosis Induced by Delta Methylene Exposure in Coalesce and Elucidating the Protective Mechanism of Resveratrol. Dr. Yang, are you available?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, thanks.
Can you please share your screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Hello everyone. I'm Xueyang from. Sorry. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see the screen.
Hello.
Yes, we can see the screen. Hello.
Hello everyone. I'm Xueyang from Northeast Agricultural University in China. I want first to thank my teacher, Professor Zhigang Zhang, for his patient guidance during my study. It is my great honor to give this talk about animal nutrition on 5th Online International Conference on nutrition and nutraceuticals, and I will talk about the liver fibrosis induced by deltamethrin explorer in Coalesce and the protective mechanism of resveratrol. I will make statements in the following 6 areas, including background, object and significance, research contents, materials and methods, results and discussion, and conclusion. First, I will talk about the part 1, background. Persevering is a synthetic organic insecticide derived from pyrethrin. Since the 1980, such insecticide has been widely used worldwide. From the graph on the right, we can see that persevering is used on a large scope worldwide. Persevering insecticide is broad spectrum with low persistence in the environment and toxicity to both mammals and birds. Deltamethrin is an important broad-spectrum insecticide among peripheral pesticides. It is widely used to protect crops, fruits, vegetables, and fish from pests, and also extensively used in veterinary medicine. Deltamethrin can induce a variety of pathological changes, including histological changes in vital organs and so on. And the deltamethrin can significantly damage the liver. The liver is the main metabolic set of exogenous chemicals, pesticides, drugs, and metals. The main organ metabolist in deltamethrin is the liver. Hepatotoxicity of deltamethrin can be induced by various mechanisms, such as the generation of free radical, induction of lipid peroxidation, inflammation, and apoptosis. Resveratrol is before exploring the protective mechanism of resveratrol on liver fibrosis, I should briefly introduce the resveratrol at first. Resveratrol is a natural polyphenol present in various plant species, such as sparrows, peanuts, and especially grape skins. Resveratrol is classified as a low molecular weight compound in the class of phyto-antimicrobials, which is phytochemical with a function antimicrobials and antioxidant. Resveratrol has the abilities of antioxidant, anti-aging, and anti-inflammatory. Resveratrol acts as a potent antioxidant and also inhibits the development of steatosis and steatohepatitis. It is these properties of resveratrol that make it likely to play an antagonist role in the progression of liver fibrosis, but this antagonist role needs to be further elucidated. Next, I will talk about object and significance of my study. The therapeutic effect of resveratrol on deltamethrin-induced acquired liver injury was observed and by establishing a deltamethrin intoxication model. The development of this study provides experimental evidence and theoretical basis for studying the treatment measures of deltamethrin poisoning of the herd, as well as ensures the safety of animal-derived food. A good theoretical knowledge is inseparable from the examination of research contents, and I will introduce the research contents of our study. The test was conducted in 2 parts. Part 1, establishment of acquired liver injury model induced by deltamethrin. Part 2, intervention of resveratrol on deltamethrin-induced hepatotoxicity in Coalesce. By setting up a delta-hemathrine concentration guidance test, the suitable dosing concentration of delta-hemathrine was determined and the delta-hemathrine-induced quail liver injury model was established. In the part 4, we will detail elaborate the materials and methods of this research. We follow the doses in the table to establish a quail liver injury model and perform experiments. Quail is a popular A1 model species commonly used for toxicity tests and assessments of pesticide safety. Quail is also a source of food for humans. Delta-hemathrine enters and accumulates in the body of the quail, posing a potential threat to human health. 40 healthy male quails randomly assigned to 4 groups, treated with 0, 15, 30, 45 mg per kilogram body weight delta-hemathrine. Our treatment lasted for 12 weeks. We subsequently performed clinical examination, blood sample collection, and histopathological observation in quails. We investigated the impact of chronic exposure to delta-hemathrine on oxidative stress and apoptosis in quail livers. We explored the intervention effects of resveratrol on delta-hemathrine-induced quail hepatotoxicity based on the tables. 40 quails were distributed in 4 groups randomly: control, delta-hemathrine plus resveratrol groups. Our treatments lasted for 12 weeks. We subsequently performed clinical examination, blood sample collection, and liver tissue collection in quails to further explore the changes of oxidative stress and apoptosis caused by resveratrol in quails. In this part, we will present the results obtained from the trial and discuss the results. Following the clinical examination, compare with the control group. The quails in low, medium, and high-dose delta-hemathrine groups show different degrees of metal release to vistosis and show different sensitivities to external stimuli. The quails in high-dose delta-hemathrine group showed obvious symptoms of head twisting, neck bending, and eye coloring after delta-hemathrine administration. And the weight of quail livers increased in medium and high-dose groups. Liver body weight index increased greatly. The average feed intake of medium and high-dose delta-hemathrine groups were significantly lower than that of the control group. The average body weight of medium and high-dose delta-hemathrine groups were significantly lower than that of control group. In this figure, we found that there were no significant difference in the number of red blood cells in quail blood between the low, medium, and high-dose groups compared with the control group. The number of red blood cells in quail blood increased significantly in a dose-dependent manner in the medium and high-dose groups compared with the control group. The enzyme activity of liver function in medium and high-dose delta-hemathrine groups were significantly higher than that in the control group. By carefully observed and contrasted the liver physiology sections, we found that the hepatocytes swelled, degenerated, and necrotic inflammatory cells increased, and a large number of fat vacuoles appear with the increase of delta-hemathrine dosage. The ultrastructure of liver have also changed. With the increase of delta-hemathrine dosage, hepatocyte structure was destroyed. Mitochondrial chiricity was broken, degenerated, and swelled. Mitochondrial structure was lost, and a large number of fat vacuoles appeared around the nucleus. Following the graph on the right, compared with the control group, MBA content in the level of delta-masculine group was significantly increased. GSH content and SOD activity were significantly reduced. Thus, with the increase of delta-masculine dosage, the level of liver oxidative stress increased greatly. In conclusion, the chronic liver injury model induced by delta-masculine established successful. The reasonable dosage for resveratrol intervention was determined in delta-masculine-induced hepatotoxicity test in Coalesce. Resveratrol has potential intervention effects on delta-masculine-induced hepatotoxicity. The ingestion of resveratrol significantly alleviated the decrease of feed intake caused by delta-masculine. The ingestion of resveratrol significantly alleviated the decrease of body weight caused by delta-masculine. Through the observation of changes in serum biochemical index, including ALT, AST, TG, and CHOL, we found that resveratrol significantly reduced the liver injury caused by delta-masculine. Resveratrol significantly reduced the increase of liver body weight index caused by delta-masculine. By carefully observed and contrasted the liver physiology sections, we found resveratrol significantly alleviated the hepatocyte vacuolization, inflammatory cell infiltration, and cytoplasmic light staining caused by delta-masculine. The liver have occurred some physiological changes by all red-O staining. Resveratrol significantly alleviated the increase of liver lipid contents caused by delta-masculine. Resveratrol can also alleviate the increase of liver collagen fibrils caused by delta-masculine. Resveratrol significantly alleviated the increase of liver hydroxyproline contents caused by delta-masculine. Following these two figures, we deduced that resveratrol reduced delta-masculine-induced hepatocyte apoptosis. Compared with the control group, MDA content in the level of delta-masculine group was significantly increased. GSH content and SOD activity were significantly reduced. Nonetheless, these changes were alleviated by the supplement of resveratrol. The ingestion of resveratrol significantly reduced the oxidative stress of liver caused by delta-masculine and increased the antioxidant capacity of liver. The mRNA expression and related protein levels in antioxidant signaling pathway have changed with the treatment of resveratrol. Compared with the control group, the relative mRNA expression of NF2, NQ1, and HO1 in the liver of the delta-masculine group were significantly decreased, whereas these mRNA expressions in the delta-masculine plus resveratrol group were significantly increased. The relative mRNA expression of AKT is contrary to NF2. Meanwhile, Western blot results show that the expression of AKT and NF2 protein were consistent with the mRNA. Therefore, resveratrol significantly reduced delta-masculine-induced damage of liver antioxidant function, induced by inhibiting AKT and NF2 signaling pathway. Resveratrol alleviated delta-masculine-induced hepatocyte apoptosis by inhibiting p53-dependent mitochondrial apoptosis pathway. Those figures show shows the effects of inflammatory signaling pathway on MR expression and related protein levels. The relative MR expression of NF-kappa B and the protein expressions of NF-kappa B and the downstream protein TNF-alpha were significantly increased in the deltamethrin group compared with the control group, and the treatment of resveratrol reduced expression. In conclusion, we found that resveratrol reduced deltamethrin-induced hepatic inflammatory response while inhibiting NF-kappa B signaling pathway. Those figures showed the effects of signal pathway-related MR expression and related protein levels in liver fibrosis. The expressions of fibrosis-related MRA in deltamethrin group were significantly increased compared with the control group. Resveratrol alleviated the changes. Thus, we deduce that resveratrol reduced deltamethrin-induced liver fibrosis while inhibiting TGF-beta1 signaling pathway. This mechanism diagram shows the specific mechanisms of resveratrol-alleviated deltamethrin-induced liver injury. Our findings demonstrate that deltamethrin-induced oxidative stress will overproduction of resveratrol of oxidative stress, which further promotes NF-kappa B, p53, and TGF-beta1 overexpression, thus leading to the development of inflammation, apoptosis, and fibrosis in the liver. The intake of resveratrol enhances the body's antioxidant system by inhibiting the AKT-alpha-2 signaling pathway. Excessive oxidative stress are cleaned. Then the overexpression of NF-kappa B, p53, and TGF-beta1 is suppressed. Deltamethrin-induced liver tissue injury is alleviated, indicating that resveratrol had a good therapeutic effect and potential application value for deltamethrin-induced cell liver injury. Based on the exploration of the study, we obtained the following two conclusions. First, chronic exposure to deltamethrin can induce liver injury in cows. Second, resveratrol alleviates the liver tissue injury induced by deltamethrin and protects the liver while reducing the oxidative stress induced by deltamethrin. It indicates that resveratrol has good therapeutic effect in deltamethrin-induced liver injury. Thanks for listening. 谢谢。
Thank you very much, Dr. Zhu Yang. Any questions?
Hello.
Yeah, hello. So I hope there are no questions. Thank you, Doctor, once again. And thank you, Professor Zhigang Zheng.
Thank you too.
Thank you. So next presentation by Dr. Maria Luisa Caston Martinez from University de Sevilla, Spain. And the presentation title is Oleuropein and its new para-acetylated derivative ameliorate joint inflammation and destruction in a murine collagen-induced arthritis model via activation of the NRF2-HO1 antioxidant pathway, suppression of MAPS and NF-kB activation.
Hi. Rheumatoid arthritis is the most prevalent chronic, painful, and debilitating autoimmune disease in the world. It's characterized by chronic synovitis leading to the progressive destruction of joints, accompanied by systemic inflammation and the production of autoantibody. In addition, rheumatoid arthritis includes extra-articular manifestations such as rheumatoid protuberance, pulmonary involvement, or vasculitis, and systemic comorbidities affecting to the patient capacity to perform physical activities compared with the healthy population. The etiology. Rheumatoid arthritis has a more or less universal distribution, with wide geographic and ethnic exclusion, besides being more incident in women than in men. Epidemiological studies carried out in Europe show a higher prevalence of rheumatoid arthritis in Nordic countries than in Mediterranean environment. This pathology is associated with a decrease in the quality of life of patients and with an excess of mortality compared to the general population and represent a serious social problem since it is the cause of up to 5% of work disability in Spain. The etiology of disease is unknown, although there are a number of factors that could be involved. It is known that a combination of genetic and environmental factors are involved in the regulation of the immune system. Genetic factors may play a fundamental role in the development of rheumatoid arthritis, in addition to various environmental and hormonal factors that may also contribute to the onset and progression of the disease. Recently, multiple studies have shown that different dietary factors can contribute to the modulation of the immune system, so that an inadequate diet can also be an important risk factor to the development of this type of disease. The onset and progression of rheumatoid arthritis are considered to be conditional by inadequate immune response, triggered by environmental factors in genetically predetermined individuals. The process of the regulation of the immune response is orchestrated by macrophages, regulatory disease, and cytotoxic disease that generated an imbalance in the production of T helpers 1 and 2 cells that favor the destruction of cartilage tissue. Macrophages are dendritic cells provide an environment that contributes to the inflammation. The therapeutic approach to this type of pathology is complicated. Nutritional therapy, including diet modification and the use of nutritional supplements, could be an interesting alternative in the control of disease as rheumatoid arthritis due to its possible contribution to the reduction of comorbidities and to increase the quality of life of patients. Since in addition to its dietary support, it could play a prophylactic and therapeutic role without the undesirable effects that accompany classical pharmacotherapy. Various epidemiological studies indicated that the Mediterranean diet, whose main lipid source is extra virgin olive oil, is associated with a lower incidence of certain pathologies. Recently, the beneficial properties of extra virgin olive oil are being attributed not only to its saponificable fraction characterized by the high content of monounsaturated fatty acids, otherwise to the unsaponificable and polyphenolic fraction. Previous studies carried out by our research group have revealed the anti-inflammatory and immunomodulatory potential of both extra virgin olive oil and also its minority fraction and phenolic compounds in pathologies such as rheumatoid arthritis, systemic lupus erythematosus, among others. Currently, there are more than 30 phenolic compounds in the olive tree, although their quality and quantity composition varies depending on the part of tree in which they are found, the variety of the olive, its degree of maturity, or their weather. Recently, our research group has carried out an exhaustive bibliography review of the beneficial property of secoiroids in autoimmune inflammatory disease and in oxidative stress. Among them, oleuropein, a very abundant glycoside leaf good and in the pulp of green olive, exerts a powerful antioxidant activity mainly related to its ability to improve the stability of ROS. It also has several other beneficial properties, but up to now, there were no experimental studies to validate the potential of oleuropein in rheumatic disease. For this reason, interesting studies have emphasized the importance of acetylated derivatives synthesized from natural phenolic compounds in order to improve the properties of the original molecules. In this way, its acetylation will provide us with a possibility to optimize the pharmacokinetic and pharmacodynamic profiles of natural compounds, thus improving their viability and therefore could be considered a new strategy for the treatment of disease of an immune inflammatory nature. The aim of this work was evaluating the effects of diazoxide oleuropein and its new derivative peracetylated oleuropein in a murine collagen-induced SIA model. Investigate the potential effects of diets enriched with oleuropein and peracetylated oleuropein in a murine collagen-induced SIA model on the production mediators, focusing on the action mechanisms and signaling pathways involved after diazoxide treatment. Regarding the methodology used for this study, the extraction of oleuropein was carried out from the leaves of the olive tree. This process is based on a thermal pretreatment of the olive leaves and the extraction in multiple stages combining moderated and too high temperature. The acetylated derivative of oleuropein were obtained by semi-synthesis from the natural molecule according to the scheme. To evaluate the beneficial effects of oleuropein and peracetylated oleuropein on SIA model, a total of 63 weeks-old male DBA1G mice were fed with the corresponding experimental pellets diet and water and Libitum during 6 weeks previous to SIA induction. Mice were randomized in 5 experimental groups. On day 0, mice were immunized with 100 milligrams of bovine collagen II, and on day 21, mice received another booster injection of 100 milligrams of collagen II. Joint inflammation was scored visually in each paw using a visual score. The scoring was performed by 2 independent observers without knowledge of the experimental groups. After mice were sacrificed, knee joints were removed and stained with hematoxylin and oxime to perform histological analysis. The level of pro-inflammatory mediators and serum markers were determined using the ELISA assay. Change in protein expression of the biochemical parameters on inflammation and cell signaling were determined by Western blot, and the statistical study was carried out thanks to GraphPad print software. We evaluated the effects of diets enriched with oleuropein and peracetylated oleuropein in a murine model of collagen-induced arthritis SIA model. We proceed to assess the effects of diets enriched with oleuropein, and in this case, its peracetylated derivative, in a murine model. For this reason, these animals were separated into 5 groups that received 3 different experimental diets. One of these enriched with oleuropein at 0.05% and another with the peracetylated derivative at the same concentration as a half. After 6 weeks from the start of the dietary treatment, rheumatoid arthritis was induced, as explained early in the methodology section. On day 42, after the first immunization, the animals were sacrificed. The joints of arthritic control presented a progressive development of clinical symptoms of rheumatoid arthritis, such as edema. However, the severity of the damage was lower in the animal treated, with the experimental diets being more frequent in those that were treated with oloropen. Hematocillin and eosin staining revealed that the histological characteristics of the stimulated animal joint were typical of a normal synovial membrane structure composed of synovial cells, collagen, and a clear synovial space. In contrast, the joint of the arthritic mice exhibited histologic changes indicative of severe arthritis characterized by a extensive infiltration of inflammatory cells into joint tissues, exudation into the synovial space, hyperplasia, and erosion of cartilage. These histologic features were less evident in these arthritic mice fed with experimental diet. The cartilage matrix oligomeric protein is the fundamental component of the extracellular matrix of various tissues, such as the synovial membrane, and is considered a marker of cartilage metabolism in arthritis. In addition, serological levels of metalloproteinase 3 are indicative of joint damage in arthritis. Serum levels of both parameters were significantly reduced after treatment with oloropen and peracetylated oloropen. At the end of the experiment, the level of tumor necrosis factor alpha, interleukin-1 beta, interleukin-6, interferon gamma, and interleukin-17 were measured in the homogeneous hind legs. The induction of arthritis resulted in a marked increase in this level of cytokines, which were significantly reduced after the consumption of experimental diets, being something more pronounced effects by the pericetylated derivative than by the natural compound. The injection with collagen induced an increase in the expression of the enzyme induced nitric oxysynthetase, which was normalized in those animals treated with the peracetylated derivative, exhibiting better results than the natural compound. We investigated the effects of these diets on NF-kappa B, MAPS, and NAF2 and hemosigenase 1 signaling pathway in homogeneous power. In case of rheumatoid arthritis, the nuclear factor NF-kappa B is usually involved in the transcription of numerous inflammatory genes, aggravating and maintaining the inflammation. As shown in the graph, cytoplasmic NF-kappa B inhibitory factor expression was significantly reduced in the SIA control graph, while overexpression of the nuclear subunit P65 and P50 occurred. In addition, MAPS regulated the synthesis of cytokines, chemicine, and prostaglandins involved in the transcription process and may trigger the activation of other signaling pathways like as Janus kinase transcription activation signal transduction pathway, thereby contributing to the chronicity of the disease. For all these reasons, we observed a significant increase in the phosphorylation of ERK, JAK, and P38 maps in the SIA control group compared to the healthy control group. However, the degree of phosphorylation of these MAPS proteins was significantly enhanced in arthritis mice fed all experiment diets tested. Finally, erythroid nuclear factor 2, NRF2, may play a role in damage regulation due to its ability to regulate the expression of antioxidant enzyme genes such as hemosigenase 1. We were able to observe a marked decrease in NRF2 and hemosigenase 1 protein expression in arthritic mice, while diets enriched with these saccharidoids induce significant overexpression of NRF and hemosigenase compared to control SIA animals. Based on the results obtained in this work, we could conclude that our study, showing for the first time the beneficial effects of dietary, all-European and peracetylated all-European supplementation in a model of rheumatoid arthritis by reducing arthritic damage, serum pro-inflammatory biomarkers, metalloproteinase 3 and COM, cytokine production, and inhibition ions overexpression. The possible action mechanisms implicated in these beneficial effects will be related to an activation of the antioxidant NAC2 and hemocysteine 1 pathway, as well as a blockage of MAPS and NF-kappa B signaling pathway. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Maria. Any questions? I hope there are no queries. So if any queries, please mention in the chat box so that we can have a discussion. And once again, thank you, Dr. Maria Lucia, for your valuable presentation. So
Thank you.
next oral presentation by Dr. Tatiana Montoya Garcia from University Sevilla, Spain. The presentation title is A New Oleocanthal Metabolite, methyl oleocanthal, regulates the inflammatory and oxidative response induced by LPS in murine macrophages and splenocytes. Molecular signaling pathways and epigenetic histones marks implicated.
Thank you for the presentation. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to start. Introduction.
Yes.
Extracellular bacterial lipopolysaccharides act as a pathogen-associated molecular pattern and is recognized by toll-like receptor 4, inducing macrophages to an activated state, producing pro-inflammatory cytokines, chemokines, and enhancing the expression of inflammatory-related enzymes. The process of gene expression of these pro-inflammatory mediators involves multiple signal transduction pathways, which are mainly mitogen-activated protein kinases, nuclear transcription factor kappa B, nuclear erythroid factor, or inflammasome activation. Emerging evidence suggests that epigenetic processes that affect gene expression without causing change in the nucleotide sequence may contribute to the pathophysiology and inflammatory process. In particular, histone H3 methylation at lysine 9 is correlated with gene silencing and the modulation of immune cells differentiation and response, and therefore influence the outcome of inflammation. Similarly, 8-acetylation or lysine 18 is a permissive mark on genes encoding cytokines that correlate to inflammation. In this context, dietary nutrients could modify physiological and pathological processes through critical mechanisms, promoting modification of gene expression without alteration of the epigenetic codes. Our groups have recently developed an exhaustive bibliographic research about the epigenetic linkage of systemic lupus erythematosus and nutrition. Particularly, functional foods such as extra virgin olive oil have displayed anti-inflammatory activities through epigenetic mechanisms. The health-promoting properties of extra virgin olive oil have been correlated with its peculiar chemical composition, especially to its minor fraction and bioactive compounds. Our research groups previously have reported the effect of several securidoids from olive. Extra virgin olive oil phenolic securidoids are minor secondary metabolites with potential applications in a large number of inflammatory and reactive oxygen species mediated diseases. The main biophenolic securitoids found in the olive tree include oleuropein, ligustoside, oleoisein, and oleocanthal. Specifically, oleocanthal represents up to 10% of the total polyphenol content in extra virgin olive oil and has received more scientific attention due to its interesting biological activity. Although it has been proposed as an epigenetic modulator, this fact remains unclear. It has been reported that oleocanthal can remain intact in the stomach for up to 4 hours and enter in a small intestine in hydrolysis. Then oleocanthal is metabolized in the liver and leads to a main circulating conjugate in all tissues, methyl oleocanthal. Perhaps the major disadvantage of the phenols is the temperature instability, photoability, and inadequate pharmacokinetic profile. In order to reduce these handicaps, methylation of the phenolic hydroxyl groups may increase the chemical stability of these structures while conferring greater lipophilicity. Besides, recent studies indicate that the orthomethylation process increases biological activity. Taking this background into account, the aim of the present work was to investigate the potential antioxidant and anti-inflammatory effects of a new oleocanthal metabolites in LPs-stimulated murine peritoneal macrophages, especially pro-inflammatory cytokines production and the protein expression enzymes were evaluated. In addition, the possible molecular signaling pathway involved in their beneficial effects were also evaluated. Finally, to study the role of epigenetic mechanisms underlying the anti-inflammatory effects, we explore methyl oleocanthal-induced epigenetic changes in histone markers and correlated cytokines production, compared to oleocanthal in spleen cells after LPs induction. Methodology. Oleocanthal was purified from olive oil phenolic extract using a quaternary biphasic solver system. Then it was purified by HPLC. The purity of oleocanthal was confirmed by nuclear magnetic resonance (NMR). Methyl oleocanthal was synthesized from isolated ligustoside. Next, in order to synthesize methyl ligustoside, we monitor a gradient elution to extract a brown solid. Finally, methyl oleocanthal was obtained by a microwave irradiation system. The purity was based on H&C MRR spectra and HPLC analysis. This isolation and synthesis processes was performed in collaboration with organic and inorganic chemistry department of the School of Experimental Science at the University of Hamm. Cells were isolated from female Swiss mice 70 hours after intraperitoneal sterile thioglycolated injection. Then, collected macrophages were cultured with oleocanthal or methyl oleocanthal pretreatment for 30 minutes and then stimulated with LPs, incubating there for 18 hours. In order to obtain the splenocytic suspension, the maize spleen were harvested and passed through a nylon cell strainer. The cells were left untreated or treated with both compounds for 30 minutes and LPs stimulated during 18 hours. The supernatants and cell lysates were collected and frozen and cytokines and protein measured, respectively. Cytokines levels were measured using ELISA-specific kits. Western blot analyses were performed using specific primary antibodies to determine protein expression. to evaluate oleocanthal and methyl oleocanthal cytotoxicity, a sulfarodamine B assay was performed. All values are expressed as arithmetic means with a standard error in figures. ANOVA tests, followed by Tukey's multiple comparison tests, were used to analyze data. Results. First, we evaluated the cell viability after ole and methole treatments. Data show that neither ole nor methole were cytotoxic after 18 hours of treatment. So we selected 50, 25, and 12.5 micromolar concentration of methyl oleocanthal to be compared with 15 micromolar oleocanthal in the following assays, based on our previous work. To explore the effects of ole and methole on pro-inflammatory cytokines production, we evaluated interleukin-6, interleukin-1 beta, interferon gamma, tumor necrosis factor alpha, and interleukin-17 levels. After 18 hours of exposure to LPEs, murine cells exhibited higher level of pro-inflammatory cytokines than unstimulated cells. On the contrary, when cells were pretreated with methyl oleocanthal, we observed a significantly downregulation in cytokines levels compared to ole groups, especially in interleukin-17 and tumor necrosis factor alpha levels. In addition, we studied prostaglandin E2-related biomarker cyoxygenase 2 and microsomal prostaglandin E synthase 1. As expected, cells from C-corridoid-related phenolate groups counteracted the induced expression of these pro-inflammatory enzymes. We could assess better results from methyl oleocanthal-treated cells. To identify whether the oleocanthal derivative evoked its effects on cells, we evaluated mitogen-activated protein kinase signaling pathway. Our data show that both compounds inhibited the activation of these proteins in a similar way and exhibited lower phosphorylation for P38, ER, and JUN mitogen-activated protein kinases compared to LPS cells. In presence of LPS, the canonical and non-canonical inflammation induce the inflammatory response in murine peritoneal macrophages. According to canonical pathway, we can observe that both oleocanthal and methyl oleocanthal modulated the protein expression of NLRP3. However, the adaptor ASC was significantly decreased in all methyl oleocanthal assayed concentration compared to its partner, who did not act on ASC expression. Nevertheless, pro-caspase-1 and caspase-1 expression were similarly decreased in methyl oleocanthal as well as oleocanthal-treated cells. The protein expression of non-canonical pathways were then analyzed. As shown in the figure, the expression of pro-caspase-11 partially and cleavable caspase was significantly reduced in treated cells, especially in methyl oleocanthal, compared to LPS-exposed cells. Lastly, in accordance with previous results, the expression levels of the mature form of interleukin-18 were downregulating, showing a significant reduction after methyl oleocanthal 50 micromolar treatments. Finally, in attempt to elucidate the role of epigenetic histone mechanism underlying methyl oleocanthal effects compared to its partner oleocanthal, we isolated histone from spleen cells and measured the expression of several lysine resites associated to gene expression of repression, respectively. We observed that pretreated cells with oleocanthal and methyl oleocanthal counteract the LPS induction and increase the expression of histone 3 lysine 9 3-methylated and histone 3 lysine 27 3-methylated, while H3K18 acetylation was significantly reduced. Subsequently, levels of interleukin-6, interleukin-1 beta, and interleukin-17, whose promoter regions have been associated with this histone mark, were considerably reduced for both securidosis-related compounds in a similar way. Conclusions. Collectively, this study reports the antioxidant and anti-inflammatory effects of oleocanthal and methyl oleocanthal in the response of murine macrophages to LPE's exposure. Generally, both compounds inhibited the expression of pro-inflammatory enzymes and cytokines through mitogen-activated protein kinases and modulation of inflammation pathways. Furthermore, oleocanthal and methyl oleocanthal were able to regulate epigenetic mechanisms by modulating histone methylation and acetylation in LPE's spleen cells. This revealing evidence suggests that the methylated metabolism of oleocanthal may contribute significantly to the beneficial effects that are associated with the securitoid-related compounds and the usual consumption of extra virgin olive oil. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Tatiana Montoya Garcia, for your presentation. Any questions or any comments? I hope there are no queries. If any questions, please mention in the chat box. So we are moving on to the next presentation by Dr. Krishna Kumar Patil from VBSP University, Jaunpur, India. And the presentation title is Rapid Physical Characterization of Mangoes Using Reflected UV Image Processing.
Hello,
Hello.
hello. Can you hear me? Hello, hello.
Yes, yes, we can hear you. Yes, we can hear you and we can see your slides.
Okay, okay, okay. Thank you. Uh, Hello, everyone. I am Dr. Krishna Kumar Patel, Assistant Professor BBS, Purvanchal University, Jaunpur, India. My topic of discussion is rapid physical characterization of mangoes using reflected ultraviolet image processing. Actually, reflected ultraviolet image processing is a method of photographing objects using reflected ultraviolet light. In this technique, ultraviolet illumination reflects off a scene and is recorded by a ultraviolet sensitive camera. Properties such as absorption, lack of penetration, and highly scattered ultraviolet waves make it very powerful investigative tool. The application of reflected ultraviolet imaging in forensic is very common and historic, but the power of reflected ultraviolet imaging that can reveal hidden evidences in agriculture produces is still not well known. Considering these facts, this technology has been adopted
Sorry for
for
the
the physical
interruption,
characterization.
Dr. Krishna Kumar Patel. Can you please change the slides while you are explaining?
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Considering the facts, this technology has been adopted for the physical characterization of the mangoes in this current research. My presentation is divided into introduction, materials and methods, result and discussion, and conclusion. So first of all, go for the introduction. Mango, the king fruits of India, is an oldest tropical and most popular climatic fruit with high quality of nutritional and medicinal value and with luscious taste and flavor. Nutritionally, mango is a rich source of prebiotic dietary fiber, carotenoid, organic acid, polyphenol, provitamins, minerals, etc. Nearly 1,000 varieties of mangoes are grown in India. More than 21 million metric tons of mangoes are produced every crop year. Although India ranks first in area and production, with the share of more than 40% mangoes in the total world production, but its share in international market is very low. Defects are a significant barrier in the mango marketing channel and degrades the product quality not only in terms of nutritional values but also the economic values and reputation of growers are exporters and also causes huge post-harvest losses. Quality of mangoes after harvest is very necessary for the satisfaction of increased awareness, sophistication, and greater expectation of consumers and good market value. Rapid, non-destructive, and precision sorting methods are thus very common, very important for quality and safety assurance of mangoes after harvest. Although several non-destructive techniques such as computer vision, X-rays, and computer tomography, magnetic resonance imaging, nuclear magnetic resonance, near infrared, ultrasound, and electronic nose and eye, etc., have now been emerged, but reflected ultraviolet imaging based on computer vision technology among these being an objective, consistent, quantitative, rapid, non-contact and non-destructive tool has been adopted for the detection of hidden defects which are unable to recognize efficiently by visible camera-based computer vision system. The main objective of this study was thus to check the potential of ultraviolet camera-based computer vision system for the characterization of physical properties of the mango. Materials and method of my study. Two commercial varieties of Indian mangoes, such as Chausa and the Sari, were selected. 60 ripened fruits of both cultivars were procured randomly from their corresponding orchards and brought to the laboratory of Post-Harvest Technology Division, Indian Agriculture Research Institute, New Delhi, India. 6 images of each fruits were captured in different postures, 4 by rotating 90 degree, one from top and one from bottom, as shown in the figure 0, 90 degree, 180 degree, 270, top and bottom, by using the ultraviolet camera manufactured by Sony, Japan. This camera was fitted on the top of the illumination chamber of the computer vision system fabricated by the PhD division IRI in New Delhi. And this computer vision system comprises three basic functions. First one is the image acquisition, second one the image processing, and third one the image analysis and classification. As image acquisition is nothing but it is a combination of illumination chamber, lighting arrangement, and camera setup. As the image processing technique is very sensitive to illumination, the constant environment condition is very important to achieve a robust performance of the algorithm. A black painted confined chamber of iron sheet was fabricated to protect object from the natural or external light. Inside the chamber, the visible light illumination was controlled with the 9 fluorescent bulb of 50 watts and 220 volts fitted in the cylindrical arrangement. While for ultraviolet light illumination of fruits, 4 15-watt fluorescent ultraviolet tube of wavelength 100 nanometer to 400 nanometer was used. Although before capturing of the reflected ultraviolet image of fruit by ultraviolet camera, it assured that ultraviolet light was on and vice versa. Ultraviolet camera was interfaced to the industrial PC through the gigabit Ethernet port via frame grabber, that is Falcon PCI board. Video signal sent from the camera to the industrial computer, which is equipped with Falcon Eagle frame grabber that acquires the images and stored in BMP format. For the defect detection, defective surface of mangoes were investigated just after the image acquisition and brightness enhancement. And for this purpose, 5 bandpass filter of wavelength ranged between 200 nanometer to 400 nanometer were tested and found that filter with 400 nanometer wavelength was more suitable for the detection of the surface defects of mangoes. In this research, common surface defects such as mechanical damage, black lesion, latex stains, revealing of mangoes were detected. And for the measurement of physical parameter, lab software was used for the image processing and analysis and other physical parameter measurement. Figure 2 shows the logarithmic algorithm that were developed before and after brightness enhancement of the image and found that the intensity plane of hue intensity and saturation plane can be used to threshold the object from the background. Figure 2b shows that the steps of algorithm, flow diagram of steps of algorithm used for the image processing and analysis and measurement of external parameters, size and attribute parameters. And among the shape attributes, area, perimeter, hydraulic radius, elongation factor, compactness factor, max thread diameter, heavy circulatory factor, type factor, and bevel disc diameter was evaluated for the description of outline of the morphology. Figure 3 shows some external diameter of mangoes, major diameter, intermediate diameter, and minor diameter, and perimeter of the fruit. And table 1 shows the description of the shape attributes of mangoes evaluated non-destructively. Software used for the processing and analysis of the images and data analysis. Three software in this research was used. First one is the Microsoft Excel 2003. Medical software was used for the comparison of two methods, manual and that is the burner caliper method, and second one is the ultraviolet computer system. And the method used for the comparison were the pair test and blind one plot. And library software was used for the image processing and analysis. Result and discussion. This figure shows the target fruit shows that the target fruit had injuries at 4 locations because of impact, vibration, and compression during harvesting, transportation, and packing operation. But their identification by RGB color camera is not accurate. However, the visualization of these mechanical injuries in reflected ultraviolet image is much distinct and clear than in the color image and are noticed darker, rough, upside down, that is open disc like in their surface topology. The injuries at B1 location, for instance, in color image is unidentified by color camera. However, from reflected ultraviolet image, it is evident that UV camera is revealed that the defect is very serious and looks like the burnt paper might be due to the injury just below the peel, possibly having the ruptured tissues Such injuries often missed during the inspection of traditional visual system, which later on can cause exposure of the acid content of the fruit to the oxygen and can accelerate the degradation. This figure shows the visualization of fungal stricken with anthracnose and dehydrated area and severe anthracnose and severe stem and rots on the surface of mangoes in the color in reflected ultraviolet image. Figure 4b shows that visualization of fungus on the fruit surface can be seen brighter, might be due to strong reflection of ultraviolet light from fungal stricken area. The brightness of fungal stricken area noticed more than the shriveled fruit in the reflected image. In the figure 4C and D, it is evident that severely defected fruits, which are very dark, might be due to the pathogen which produce melanite appreciorium. Since the appreciorium of certain pathogenic fungi appears darkly pigmented due to a discrete cell wall layer of melanin that absorbs ultraviolet light. In addition, the ultraviolet light also absorbed strongly by many organic materials and makes possible to visualize the surface topology of an object without the light penetrating into the interior parts. Unlike the area with dry anthracnose, the visualization of wet anthracnose was found darker. This figure shows the shriveled mangoes image captured by the ultraviolet camera and color camera, and the cut image are also given in this figure. From the figure, it is evident that the textures of the hydrated area of fruits are bright and dark, might be due to fruit salt accumulation, as the inorganic materials like salt causes reflection of ultraviolet light and stand out as bright. Simultaneously, ultraviolet light absorbed by many commonly encountered organic materials and appears as dark. Similarly, the visualization of latex stains on fruit surface is dark in reflected ultraviolet light images, might be due to the absorption of ultraviolet light by the terpinolene-like organic element in the mango sap. This table shows the various list of the various defects and their visualization in color image and ultraviolet image. Measurement of physical parameters. External diameter of the mangoes were measured using the Vernier caliper and ultraviolet computer vision system and compared using the pair test, regression analysis and blind Altman plot, and found that the value of high value of coefficient of correlation determination shows that image processing method is closer to the manual method. This table shows the blind Altman plot for the comparison of outer dimension, and from this figure we can see that the all differences are within the 95% limit of agreement, which means that both methods can be used interchangeably. Estimation of shape attributes by the image analysis. Various shape attributes such as elongation factor, compactness factor, Hayward circulatory factor, type factor, perimeter, hydraulic radius, max red diameter, beddle disc diameter, and area of both cultivars were evaluated and found that these parameters vary from cultivar to cultivar and thus can be used for the differentiation of the cultivar and also for the description of the morphology of the morphology of the fruit. Conclusion. As ultraviolet lights have a short wavelength, smaller inconsistencies and rough surfaces can be identified. Since reflected ultraviolet image processing results were found closer to the manual method, the ultraviolet computer vision system, like non-destructive system, thus can be used for the rapid physical characterization or sorting and grading of mangoes to avoid not only post-harvest losses but also reputation of the grower. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Krishna Kumar Patel, for your presentation. Any questions? I hope there are no questions. If any questions, please do mention in the chat box. And the next oral presentation is by Dr. Violeta from Polish Mothers Memorial Hospital Research Institute, Poland. And the presentation title is Genetic Predisposition to Gestational Diabetes Mellitus.
Hello, can I speak now?
Yes. You can speak now and your presentation slides are clear.
Uh, uh, Good morning to everyone. Thank you very much for the invitation to participate in today's conference. I will
Turn off webcam से ignore troubleshooting tips అని వచ్చింది.
Okay. I will present the last findings about genetic predisposition to gestational diabetes mellitus. The gestational diabetes mellitus is a disorder of carbohydrate tolerance resulting in an increase in blood glucose firstly recognized in pregnancy. Typical GDM is usually diagnosed between the 24th and 28th week of pregnancy and passes with childbirth. Increased glycemia observed in the earlier weeks of gestation may indicate type 2 diabetes. T2DM, not diagnosed before pregnancy, or type 1 diabetes. T1DM, that develops during pregnancy. Among the risk factors for GDM are gestational diabetes in previous pregnancies, age over 35 years, overweight or obese, hypertension before pregnancy, having more than 2 children, having a child weighing over 4 kilos, giving birth to a newborn with a developmental defect, history of intrauterine death, a family history of type 2 diabetes, polycystic ovary syndrome. Maternal gestational diabetes mellitus may be associated with further complications observed also in women after delivery, in their fetuses, as well as neonates after birth. These complications include increased risk for fetal macrosomia, polyhydramnios, birth injury, neonatal hypoglycemia, and other neonatal metabolic disturbances, significantly higher likelihood of long-term consequences for the health and well-being of both mothers and their offspring compared to normoglycemic pregnancies, higher incidence of adult obesity, and the development of type 2 diabetes mellitus later in life, predisposition for the cardiovascular diseases and metabolic disorders, greater risk of developing T2DM in women with GDM history compared to those who had a normal pregnancy, a 35 to 60% chance of developing diabetes in the next 10 to 20 years in women with a history of GDM. Among the risk factors for GDM, several genes involved in glucose metabolism, insulin synthesis and secretion, and also insulin signal transduction have been determined from GWAS. Additionally, case control studies have demonstrated the effect of genes associated with B-cell function, insulin secretion, peripheral insulin resistance, glucose metabolism, and oxidative stress on the predisposition to GDM. The 8 genes demonstrating association with GDM were as follows: TCF7L2, GCK, KCNG11, KCNQ1, CDKL1, IGF2BP2, MTNR1B, and IRAS1. All of this loci also associated with risk of T2DM. The majority of these genes encode proteins important for beta cell function or development, including GCK, KCNJ11, KCNQ1, MTNR1B, AGF2BP2, CDKL1, and TCF7L2. In contrast, variants in IRAS1, which is a docking protein that plays a critical role in insulin signaling, impact insulin sensitivity. Various genetic polymorphisms were reported to associate with the risk of gestational diabetes mellitus in different regions. Case control study conducted in Chinese population showed that the minor allele of ERAS 108, 309, 62 was significantly associated with an increased risk of GDM. After adjustment for age, pre-pregnancy BMI, parity, abnormal pregnancy history, and family history of diabetes. The results were still robust under the recessive model and the codominant model. However, no significant association was observed between the other two SNPs and GDM risk in any model. In women from Hawaii, several SNPs showed significant associations with GDM and were ethnicity specific. In particular, SNPs located in genes EXT2, HHEX, KCN-CoA1, MTNR1B, and SLC30A8 showed significant associations with GDM in Filipinos. For Japanese, SNPs located in IGF-BP2 and KCN-CoA1 genes were significantly associated with GDM. In turn, for Pacific Islanders, SNPs located in genes MTNR1B and SLC30A8 showed significant associations with GDM. A meta-analysis based on 10 studies showed that the variant heterozygous and homozygous genotypes of the two polymorphisms RS 775, 699-2 and 775, 3840 were associated with increased GDM risk in comparison with the wild-type AA genotype. A case control study in the Chinese population showed that SNPs located in FTO and KCN-CoA1 genes were significantly associated with a decreased risk of GDM in the dominant and additive model, but not in the recessive model. Also, SNPs from MC4R and PROX1 genes were significantly associated with the increased risk of GDM in the three models, in dominant, recessive, and additive model. Meta-analysis performed for 23 studies showed that 60 variants in 8 loci located in or near the genes IGF2BP2, CDKAL1, GRIS3, CDKN2A, 2B, HHEX, ID, TCF7L2, MTNR1B, and HNF1A were significantly associated with the gestational diabetes. Among these, two variants located in CDKAL1 in Europeans, two variants in TCF7L2 also in Europeans, and two variants in MTNR1B reached genome-wide significance for association. All the significant variants for GDM had the same direction of association for type 2 diabetes mellitus. Stratified analysis of the polymorphism RS 793, 62, 47 variant related to glucose metabolism showed a significant association for the T allele with GDM risk that was observed among pregnant women without a family history of diabetes, compared with women with a family history of the disease. To sum up, genetic association studies and meta-analysis showed that SNPs from various functional genes contribute to GDM. Further research into signaling pathways associated with reported SNPs is warranted in order to develop new therapeutic strategies for GDM. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Violeta. Any questions or any comments? I hope there are no queries. So if any queries, please do mention in the chat box. Dr. Ravi Pandiselvam, are you available now in the meeting? Hello everyone, we are communicating with Dr. Ravi Pandiselvam. Please stay connected, just give me a minute. Okay. Hello everyone. We try to contact Dr. Ravi Pandiselvam. He'll be joining later. Meanwhile, we'll start the poster sessions. So, the poster session by Dr. Nicoletta Charapotwa from University of Nicosia, Cyprus, and the presentation title is Comparative Phytochemical Analysis of the Major Secondary Metabolites of Arum italicum and Arum maculatum and their correlation with their pharmacological properties.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, hello. We have your file. We are going to play it
Okay.
now.
Okay. Do you want to do it share screen, or do you want to do it you? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay. Can I start? Can I start?
Okay, no questions from anyone. Thank you once again for your presence and presentation. Yeah, thank you. So our next presenter is Dr. Zainab Umar Abdullahi from Federal University, Datsuma, Nigeria. And the title of the talk is Trypanocidal Effects of Snake Venom Fractions. Hello, Dr. Zainab.
Sorry, can I present?
Hello, Dr. Zainab. Your voice is not audible. Yes, yes. Now, okay. Yeah, so I will share my screen with your presentation, and when you have to change the slide, just let me know. Okay. I'm sorry, your voice is not properly audible. No, there is disturbance. Like, no, Dr. Zainab, there is a disturbance. Like, cannot able to hear your voice properly.
Do you want to present it live? Mm.
I think you need to check with your speaker phone if there's a problem with your speaker connection, not the network, because as you can see, you have line to webcam and it is working properly. Please check your headphones or speaker phones which you are connected to speak. It is a problem with that.
I can't hear properly. Yeah, hello, Dr. Nicoletta. Actually, there is a problem with our system audio. We are checking that. So, is it possible to play the video from your side?
Okay, yes, I agree. I think it's better.
Yeah,
Can
there
I
is
have
a
share
audio.
screen from my
Yeah,
PC?
yeah, please.
Okay. I put the button screen.
Yes, click on the screen.
Mm,
Then,
maybe to be my name the presenter, because the PC don't let me to have send screen without be the presenter.
okay, I'm making you the presenter now.
Ah, okay,
Yes, I made you the presenter. Can you check now?
great.
So I would request
Just a minute. Ah, I think it's okay.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, let's start. Hello, my name is Posa Nicoleta
Yeah,
Jara,
can you
and I will.
zoom it? Can you zoom it a little bit so that we can read your poster?
Yes, just a minute, sorry. To zoom it. Okay. Can I start?
Yes, you can start.
Okay. Hello, my name is Posa Nicoleta Jara, and I will present you the results of my thesis that I did under the guidance of my teacher, Mr. Pukas Mike, in University of Nicosia. We did an evaluative literature review concerning the phytochemical analysis of two plants, Arum italicum and Arum maculatum, and we correlated them as their pharmacological properties. Since many of our earliest therapeutic remedies were derived from plants or plant extracts, the pharmaceutical industry focused its research on natural products for the discovery of potential drug substances for the treatment of human diseases. The number of studies concerning agents deriving from natural products is also exponentially increasing. Arum italicum and Arum maculatum are two perennial plants you can find in the Mediterranean region in West Asia and North Africa, widely known for their pharmacological properties with toxic calcium oxalate containing fruits. Their toxicity is also attributed to their content in triglycinin, a cyanogenic glycoside. In tradition, Arum italicum is recommended by local population for the treatment of many diseases, such as coughs, eczema, rheumatoid arthritis, and hemorrhoids, and for its antimicrobial properties. Arum italicum is used in tradition in herbal remedies because of its aphrodisiac properties and as a healing agent against ulcer, ascites, and depression. The aim of this evaluative literature review is to highlight the therapeutic use of these two species via the most recent scientific studies, compare their traditional use as medicinal plants with their scientifically proven documented phytotherapy, and report their major secondary metabolites via their phytochemical analysis. Phytochemical analysis on the above species resulted to the isolation of several terpenes. However, the most prominent category of secondary metabolites is the flavonoids, thus justifying the strong antioxidant capacity of the plants and their potential use as natural antioxidant agents. The above species seem to possess anti-cancer properties since pharmacological studies evaluated their antiproliferative and cytotoxic potential use and can be used for the treatment of hemorrhoids. Nevertheless, it is important to emphasize the need to carry out further research studies and phytochemical analysis so as to isolate more compounds that will justify the pharmacological action that is attributed to the above species. All this information may be useful for the promotion of the further use of these plants in medicinal products, justifying also their traditional use as beneficial to health. Let's see the introduction. Arum italicum and Arum maculatum are two species of flowering herbaceous perennial plants known for their velvety leaves, you can see here, as well as for the characteristic inflorescence called spadix, here, the yellow one, surrounded by a unique leafy bark spathe. The plants are characterized by their poisonous orange-red fruits, and they are widely distributed in the Mediterranean, West Asia, and North Africa, but also in certain parts of Europe. Arum italicum is used in tradition as an expectorant and as an antimicrobial agent suitable for the treatment of eczema, rheumatoid arthritis, warts, and hemorrhoids. Arum italicum is recommended traditionally by local population as an aphrodisiac and as an anti-aging agent, while it seems to be used for the treatment of ulcers, asthma, ascites, and of course melancholy. The most prominent category of secondary metabolites is the flavonoids, thus justifying the strong antioxidant capacity of the plants. Moreover, they seem to contribute to their antiproliferative and cytotoxic potential and their possible use for the treatment of hemorrhoids. Phytochemical analysis on the above species resulted to the isolation of several terpenes. Let's see with more details the results of these theses. We can mention the antioxidant action of these plants. A lot of pharmacological studies revealed the presence of several flavonoids which seems to have a potential use against Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, atherosclerosis, cancer, and arthritis, according to in vitro and in vivo studies. Moreover, flavonoids and phenolic acid derivatives such as ferrolic acid, here, caffeic acid, and pecumaric acid, justified the strong antioxidant capacity of the plants and their potential use as natural antioxidant agents. Okay, let's see now the anti-cancer activity. Arum italicum has indicated a strong anti-cancer activity, a strong anti-cancer potential use. According to an in vitro study, Arum italicum showed cytotoxic effect in MCF7 cells, breast cancer cells, antiproliferative effect in A549 cells, non-small cell lung cancer cells, and also a strong apoptotic effect in A549 cells, non-small cell lung cancer cells, due to the presence of phenolic acids, such as ferrolic acid, pecumaric acid, and caffeic acid, isoflavones, such as puerarin, many flavones, such as apigenin 6,8-C pentoside and vitexin, and due to many lignans you can see here in the table. Arum maculatum has also a strong antimicrobial action. The petroleum ether, methanol, and ethyl acetate extracts of the plant exhibit strong antimicrobial action due to the presence of terpenes against gram-positive bacteria such as Bacillus cereus, Micrococcus luteus, and Listeria monocytogenes, gram-negative bacteria such as Pseudomonas phaseolicola, Enterobacter aerogenes, Yersinia enterocolitica, and against fungi such as Aspergillus niger, due to the presence of terpenes such as apinen and citronella. Arum maculatum has also a strong anti-inflammatory activity due to the presence of a lectin called agglutinin. Agglutinin, isolated from the species, seems to promote the migration of neutrophils, phagocytes, to the tissues. Arum maculatum is a plant that can be used for the treatment of hemorrhoids. Potential treatment of hemorrhoids due to its high content of flavonoids. The pharmacological action shown by these two plants are remarkable. Natural products can surely become a source of active medicinal substances due to their beneficial properties. Concerning the future perspectives can be, first of all, isolate more active compounds for plants. Secondly, research for other uses of the above plants that have not been studied yet, and carry out further preclinical and clinical trials to increase the safety, efficacy, reliability, and validity of the results. This is all that I have to tell with you. I thank you very much. Thank you. Just a minute.
Thank you, Dr. Nicoletta. It was a great presentation from your side. So any questions or any comments? I hope there are no questions. If any, please do mention in the chat box. So we are moving on to the next poster presentation by Dr. Olukoton Debo Barnabas from National Biotechnology Development Agency, Nigeria, and the presentation title is Improvement of Tomato Quality and Yields Using Inoculative Augmentation with Some Indigenous Soil Inoculants. So I'll be displaying the poster now from my screen. Please go to the poster, and if any queries, please mention in the chat box. So I hope that everyone have gone through the poster. So if any questions, Dr. Olukotun is available now. You can go ahead. Dr. Olukotun Debo, we have displayed Dr. Olukotun, we have displayed your poster just before you logged in. So if anyone is having any queries, the doctor is available now to answer your questions. Dr. Barnabas, can you unmute yourself and let us know that you want to explain your poster again? So I hope there are no queries. We are moving on to the next poster presentation by Dr. Zoran Jivic from University Cyril and Methodius, North Macedonia. And the presentation title is Toxicity of Weight Loss Supplements in Human Liver HEP-G2 Cells. Dr. Zoran, we can see the poster. Can you explain it?
Um, Dear hosts and participants, first of all, I will shortly introduce myself. My name is Zoran Živic and I'm coming from University Science Hero and Methodius in Skopje, Republic of North Macedonia. I'm working as a teaching assistant at the Faculty of Pharmacy and at the same time PhD student in the field of food and nutrition and toxicology at the Institute of Applied Biochemistry. It's my honor to be a part of this virtual event and to share the main results of our study entitled Toxicity of Weight Loss Supplements using Human Hepatoblastoma Derived Cell Line. The use of natural and/or herbal weight loss supplements is a global trend option to gain fast slimming effects. Great number of patients or potential users of these products are convinced in their safety due to the natural origin. However, all things that are natural cannot be considered completely safe at the same time. In many cases reported in the literature, evidence for quality, efficiency, and safety of worthwhile popular weight loss supplements is often missing, and some of them may produce adverse health effects, even severe toxicity. Concerning the existence of inconsistent between easy available and uncontrolled use of these products, as well as inconsistence of the consumers for potential risks, in vitro toxic effects of 8 supplements available at the market of the Republic of North Macedonia were examined using human liver HepG2 cells, and subsequently hepatotoxic potential of these supplements was evaluated. The HepG2 cells were treated with test solution at 3 concentrations respectively to the minimum, the medium, and the maximum daily dose recommended for each supplement during 72 hours at 37 degrees Celsius in the atmosphere saturated with 5% carbon dioxide. Within the treatment, the predetermined intervals of 24 hours, 48 and 72 hours, the cell viability measurements were performed using tetrazolium bromide MTTSA. The colorimetric test can be considered as a relevant measure of cell survival due to the ability of the cell mitochondrial enzyme succinate dehydrogenase to reduce yellow tetrazolium salt in blue-colored formazan. Intensity of the developed color is proportional to of the number of active mitochondria, which was detected using the cell multi-label reader. Enzyme activities of aspartate transaminase, alanine transaminase, gamma-glutamyl transferase, lactate dehydrogenase, and alkaline phosphatase as a biochemical endpoints of hepatocellular injury were determined at 4 time intervals, including the 12 hours after exposure, in order initial changes to be detected. For these measurements, commercially available kits and appropriate kinetic methods according to the manufacturer's instructions were used. Among studied enzymes whose increased level indicate disturbance in hepatocellular function, lactate dehydrogenase is the most relevant enzyme that is stable, but when plasma membrane is damaged, can be released into the medium, thus its increase most often demonstrate cytolysis. According to the obtained results, for the cell viability, absence of an apparent hepatotoxicity caused by the vast majority of the tested weight loss supplements has been observed. Therefore, their proper administration in conjunction with the recommended use probably is free of the risk to initiate an adverse or even toxic effects for patients. However, the viability was significantly declined up to 95% in cells exposed to both medium and maximum concentration of the test solution of the supplement 2, with the extract of acai berry fruits as a main active compound during the first 24 hours of exposure, and remained constantly low regardless of the exposure time. The treatment caused cytolysis as evidenced by the significant increase in LDH for 300% and 700% of the control in cells treated with the medium in high concentrations respectively. Arise as IST activity of 300 and 700% in the control in the cells 24 hours exposed to the medium and high concentrations respectively was found as well. Can you see the poster now?
We can see the poster.
Thank you very much. Arise in IST activity for 300 and 800% of the control in cells 20 hours exposed to the medium and high concentrations respectively was found, as well as an increased ratio between IST and ILT, which is observed in severely damaged hepatocytes. Increases in gamma-glutamyl transferase activity was also observed, showing early cells damage due to the loss of the membrane integrity, while alkaline phosphatase didn't show significant increase, probably grow out of its unspecific role in hepatic tissue function. According to our knowledge, there is no literature data describing any adverse or toxic effects associated with the use of acai berry. On the contrary, it's a popular antioxidant herbal supplement contributed to decrease of oxidative plasma capacity and improved lipid profile. However, the supplement number 2 is a multi-component product that beside acai berry extract contained hitozan, dietetic fibers, and extract from the aloe leaves, extract of the plant Garcinia cambogia, and green tea extract containing caffeine and polyphenolic compounds as epigallocatechin. Epigallocatechin trigalate and hydrocitric acid may be responsible of the evidence toxicity since cases of hepatotoxicity have been reported in the literature. According to the available reports, the use of hydrocitric acid and green tea extract is usually associated with the acute damage of the hepatocytes. Acute hepatitis was most often reported as a consequence of green tea administration due to catechin and epigallocatechin induced oxidative stress during starving lead of hepatocyte injury. In the composition of the examined supplements number 4 and 6, Garcinia cambogia extract was also declared, even in higher amount compared to the supplement number 2, but both products were free of green tea extract, showing that the combination of green tea extract and Garcinia extract posed a risk to disturb the normal hepatocyte function. The loss of cell viability as a result of exposure to rest of the 7 supplements tested was ranging from 5 to 25% and was dosed at time dependent. Some of the supplements have shown to support the cell growth, especially with the initial 24-hour exposure. In general, the viability results was as determined by the enzyme activity, suggesting the utility of those markers in vitro analysis to predict hepatocellular stress. In conclusion, the liver is mainly responsible for biotransformation of major oxynobiotics, and the most serious safety issue for pharmaceutically active substances and herbal products is the potential for liver injury. Thus, in vitro hepatocellular testing may be used in assessment of some toxic features of herbal weight loss supplements. Evaluating toxicity of weight loss supplements in human liver HepG2 cells can help the healthcare providers and patients to identify those herbal weight loss products bearing potential risks to cause adverse events associated with hepatotoxicity or other possible side effects, as well as to avoid concomitant use with prescribed drugs for treatment of obesity-related disease such as diabetes type 2, hyperlipidemia or hypertension, and of course cardiac arrest. In this case, when patients administered dietary or herbal supplements and medicines concomitantly, there is a need of raising attention to be promptly advised to avoid such co-administration and potential health risk, having in mind that large number of herbal entities can induce or inhibit cytochromal enzymes involved in the biotransformation of drugs and shift their metabolism to produce more toxic metabolites and serious health issue. The result of these experiments are even more significant, knowing that HepG2 cells possess physiological and metabolic similarities to human cells, and specific tests with diagnostic value or biomarker to certify a drug or herbal product hepatocellular induced injury are not available yet. They are also significant in the view of an initial message to the regulatory bodies that more close regulation of weight loss supplements has to be made as soon as possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Zoran, for your poster presentation. So, any questions? Any questions or any comments? I hope there are no. Once again, thank you, Dr. Zaron. So we have a video presentation from Dr. Laila Ahmad Albishi from University of Chabuk, Saudi Arabia. And the presentation title is Relationships Among Consanguinity, Family History and the Onset of Type 1 Diabetes in Children from Saudi Arabia. I'm going to share the screen now. So please go through the video presentation and let us know if any questions.
Hello everyone, it is my pleasure to be with you sharing a research poster, and I took this opportunity to thank the organizing committee for inviting me. I would like to share the poster title of Relationship Among Consanguinity, Family History and Onset of Type 1 Diabetes in Children from Saudi Arabia. And this is a study actually published in June 2021, and I would like to present the study with you today. So to start with, type 1 diabetes is the most prevalent chronic diseases in children. Actually, it involves heterogeneous etiological factors, and the increasing incidence of new cases is actually an alarming figure, especially in young age group. An important genetic risk factor is human leukocyte antigen class 2 of major histocompatibility complex, which initiates the autoimmune destruction of beta cells. The prevalence of diabetes mellitus varies considerably among different populations worldwide, and analyzing these variations may help to identify the pathogenic factor that could be used in the future studies to identify the predisposing factors for type 1 diabetes. As you can see in this figure, the genetic predisposition along with the autoimmune risk in the family in terms of presence of environmental trigger, all these will lead to pancreatic beta cell destruction and to type 1 diabetes. What is the scenario in Saudi Arabia? Many epidemiological studies have attempted to estimate the prevalence of diabetes in Saudi Arabia. There has been a significant increase in the number of new cases of diabetes, which could be related to several environmental and genetic factors. Factors such as the consanguineous marriage, which we focus on this study, appear to increase the susceptibility of the Saudi population to type 1 diabetes, and not only type 1 diabetes, it's to other also diseases, genetic or hereditary, compared to the other population. And several epidemiological investigations have explored the association between consanguinity and risk of developing type 1 diabetes. So from that fact, we presumed a question that could parents' consanguinity play a role along with family history of type 1 diabetes and autoimmunity in the development of the disease in children? So coming to the objectives of the study. So we have assigned 3 objectives or 3 main categories to be demonstrated the relationship between them and the onset of type 1 diabetes. And these are parental consanguinity, positive family history of type 1 diabetes, positive family history of autoimmunity. So coming to the methodology. So this is a cross-sectional case control study involved all Saudi pediatric patients with type 1 diabetes, aged 6 months to 12 years, who visited pediatric diabetes clinic at the King Salman Hospital between January 2000 and December 2010. And the study, of course, excluded patients with type 2 diabetes, neonatal diabetes, secondary diabetes, and those aged less than 6 months or above 12 years, and this is the maximum figure of pediatric clinic at that time. So in total, we have 188 patients compared with 192 control matched group. And patients data recorded were demographic data in addition to the parental consanguinity level, family history of diabetes, family history of autoimmune disease, and other disorders were recorded. And the diagnostic criteria of diabetes, type 1 diabetes in those children were based on characteristic symptoms of polyuria, polydipsia, polyphagia, and weight loss in association with hyperglycemia of blood sugar more than 11.1 millimole per liter, glucosuria, ketonuria of urine ketone plus 1 or more, and the presence or absence of acidosis and high glycated hemoglobin level more than 6.5%. And then we use the statistical analysis as per the statistician advice, and we consider a significant value of P if it is less than 0.05. So as you can see the result in the table, and there was gender female and female significant number between patients compared to the control, also between the age in the patient and control group. However, the consanguinity, there was no difference between the two groups. So the result has been reported as follows. There was a significant difference in the age and gender among the two groups. No difference in the parents' consanguinity in the patients versus control group. However, according to the level of consanguinity, the first cousin parent parental consanguinity was significant in patients with type 1 diabetes. And those patients with positive family history of type 1 diabetes was significantly higher than those in control group. And as you can see in this figure, the parent consanguinity showed almost a negligible difference. However, in the first cousin's consanguinity, there is a marked increase in the patient group compared with the control group. So when we come to the discussion of this study, we found that our aim was to elucidate the relationship among consanguinity, family history, and the onset of type 1 diabetes. And the first thing we found that the age and sex determinant type 1 diabetes onset is heterogeneous among many studies worldwide and in some areas. And we found in this study almost 69% female gender compared to 38% of male gender, and also in the age group we find some significant difference. And this is actually intelligence among studies. Second point that the relationship between parental consanguinity and type 1 diagnosis was not significant. However, among the level of consanguinity, children of first cousin parents were at increased risk. Actually, we found that in one study showed the first cousin consanguinity was not associated with type 1 diabetes. But there are two studies confirmed that the third consanguinity and the family history of type 1 diabetes were highly associated with occurrence of type 1 diabetes in children. And also, school children with consanguine parents were approximately sixfold more likely to develop diabetes at young age than those with non-consanguineous marriage. And then we looked at the family history with positive family history of type 1 diabetes. And in evaluating this outcome, we found families with positive family history of type 1 diabetes had a higher number of circulating type 1 diabetes, supporting the data exploring the familial clustering of type 1 diabetes, where the risk of developing type 1 diabetes is 8 to 15-fold higher in the first degree relative and 2-fold higher in second degree relative. Other studies demonstrated markedly increase in close relative of a patient with type 1 diabetes, averaging approximately 6% in the offspring and 5% in sibling and 30% in identical twins. And then, in regard to the family history of autoimmune, actually this study did not show any significance in the association between the positive family history of autoimmune disease and the onset of type 1 diabetes. And this possible attributed to the complexities of cancerous marriage in Saudi population that affect the autoimmune phenotype. Unfortunately, this data has no evidence, and still we need to prove it in clinical studies. So, what is our conclusion? We concluded that the clinical characteristics concerning type 1 diabetes, that concerning the consanguinity, family history, and onset of type 1 diabetes in Saudi population are variable, and this is supporting that type 1 diabetes is a multifactorial. And then consanguineous marriage may contribute to an increased genetic predisposition for the development of type 1 diabetes. A positive family history of type 1 diabetes could also be an increased risk of a new case in the family. And therefore, increasing public awareness of the increased incidence of type 1 diabetes in children, particularly those with a positive family history of type 1 diabetes, should be considered during the premarital and genetic counseling. From that on, what is our future perspective and future need for clinical study? So we still know less about the heterogeneous etiological factors involved in the onset of type 1 diabetes. However, could the new technology nowadays of the whole genome sequencing for type 1 diabetes help in better understanding and possible curative aspects? Then we really in need of further studies that elaborated more in the premarital counseling and its role in the onset of type 1 diabetes, family autoimmunity, and aiming towards prevention if possible. By this, I end my poster and study. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.
So this is the presentation from Dr. Laila Ahmed Albishi. So if you have any questions, please do send us to our email. We will forward to him. We will forward to her and we'll answer you the questions. So we are only left with one presentation from Dr. Salwa Khost from Canada. So please allow me a few moments. I will contact to her. Let me just check whether she is active or not so that we can conclude the program for today. Please stay connected.
Hello everyone, I have contacted Dr. Sabani and she will be joining the meeting soon. So please stay connected. We have this only presentation for this day. So please stay connected.
Yes, so thank you one and all to making the webinar day one successful. We have contacted Dr. Sabani, but she is not lifting her phone. So by this, we will conclude our program for today, and we'll be very glad and happy if you could join us by tomorrow webinar also and making it a successful. Thank you and have a nice day. Yeah, Dr.
This conference will now be recorded.